Hey, we're back. We're going to continue with these hype stocks. And so, just to refresh ourselves, these are the hype stocks that I'm following currently. I decided to add a new one, which should have been on the list before, but because it's not technically a stock, um, it wasn't on the list. So, I decided to add Bitcoin in here. And maybe that's just because I've heard it's kind of been on the incline lately, but it is a asset that I think is worth following, uh, especially because more and more people seem to be becoming involved with it, and so I think it would be nice to add to the portfolio, even if it is in small increments. I think the nice thing about it is you don't have to buy a full Bitcoin. There's a way that you can buy just fractional shares of Bitcoin, and that's more so what I'll be doing. Just because, yeah, I just don't have $28,000 sitting around, but um, yeah. So let's just get into it, and we're gonna again start from scratch because I haven't done this one before. So all I'm going to do just to kind of start off is just draw in a couple points. We're going to put in, just like we've done with all the other ones, is we're going to put in a high point, a low point, and then just some times that I think it would be a good buy or sell in terms of just kind of like the resistance lines, and then like a fair value line for the stock. And so what we're looking at right now is a 3-year chart. So off here on the left side, that goes back to 2020. And then of course over here on the right side, that brings us to today. And if you, not sure if you can see on the screen because it is kind of tiny, but this is still, trades are still happening. This asset, it never stops. It's always moving. So there's no market open or close. It's just always moving. So again, just focusing on the 3-year chart, and then we'll kind of zoom in just to kind of catch up with the other ones because um, just how I've been doing it is, again, I'll look at the 3-year, then I'll zoom into 2 years, and then as we kind of progress, we'll get closer and closer to just maybe more of a daily chart, but we're still in the early phases of that, so we're going to take it uh, back at the beginning of just a 3-year period. And so we're drawing in a couple lines. So again, these black lines that I'm drawing in here, that seems to be the ultimate low in that 3-year period and the ultimate high. Uh, so we do have this high roughly around 64,300. So really big number. So a lot of room to grow here, even after it's kind of been trending upwards lately. And then the low I have marked out at 16,060. And so one thing you might be wondering, how come I didn't draw the low back here of 2020? Uh, I've done this with other stocks that I've been following where, yes, it did hit this extreme low back in March of 2020 during that crash because of the COVID situation, but now it seems to have found a new low uh, more recently in about November, December of 22. And that seems to be the new bottom of this stock after it kind of fell rapidly over the past year during 2022 as a whole. And so, again, just continuing on with this, it looks like a good buy point would be around 24,000. And so I'm probably just going to round numbers to the 1,000 because this is that type of stock. But once we get into more details, I'll say the full number. But 24,000 seems to be, if it's less than 24,000, that seems like a good time to buy. And I'm choosing that line mainly because more recently that seems to have been a resistance line. And we're currently above that, so we are going to keep that in consideration. But it seems like anytime it's been below that line, uh, that's been good. Um, And again, I'm trying to treat this as a 3-year mark, and then once we zoom in, we'll kind of change our parameters here. If I were to look at a sell point, It looks like we had some resistance here. I would say maybe more commonly around 50,000. It looks like it hit its head there for about a month back in August, early September of 21. Then it just took off, hit that high of about 64,000, came back, and then once again it kind of bounced around that mark for another month around December, early January of 22. And then once it kind of went through that line, kind of bounced around. And so I think our fair value line, which I'm going to make that one blue for us, it's going to be somewhere around here. I'm not sure if I want to put it down here as the low. I think what we've done in the past is we'll just draw in a couple of these fair value lines, and like in that range is kind of the fair point, whether it's the high fair value or the low fair. It's just a fair value range, just to kind of keep us honest, I suppose. And so right around here seems to be a good range. We had a month where it really kind of bounced in that range, and then it took off. And then again, it came into that range in about mid 2021, more or less like a full quarter almost during 2021. About the end of second quarter, early third quarter, it hung out in that range, acting as a support line for a number of weeks. And then more recently, it kind of acted as support again in the first quarter of 2022, where it did go below for a week but came right back up, then danced around that line. And then once it actually did finally break that line consistently for a couple weeks in about May of 22, that's when we came up with pretty much new lows for this company, and it hung out in this range down here. Again, I could probably draw in another fair value points somewhere in like the 43,000 mark, because it acted as resistance for a little bit and also support back here. So we could maybe, I just don't want to make the chart too complicated, especially because these values are so above and beyond where it is right now. But at the same time, I kind of want to set us up for later. So yeah, we'll draw a third one in here just so it'll more or less give us like a the high value point in terms of fair value. This is like the mid range, and then the low. So we have a very big fair value range between 31,000 and 45,000, and then if we slice it even, it's right around in the middle, in all honesty. So it goes from 31 to 38 to then 45, so $7,000 increments. So lots of room to grow, which is a good thing for any company, or in this case an asset. And so that kind of I'm pretty content with that. That seems good. So just to kind of catch us up with some of the other stocks that we've been looking at, I know for a lot of them that I've now kind of transitioned into looking at the more recent 2-year period, and so that's why I zoomed in a little bit more here, and then of course focusing more on what it's been doing over the past roughly 9 months. You can see it's really just kind of been bouncing around in this range between 16 and 24, and then of course most recently it's shot up here. And so if we kind of look at the past, I do think we're gonna hit some resistance here at 31,000, and the fact that it's at 28, there's definitely a good possibility that it's gonna rally up to 31,000, and then we'll kind of see if it kind of bounces back to 24. There's not much support at 24. Like ultimately, if this one were to hit 31,000 and then start to fall back, like pull back, 24,000 would be a good time to buy, of course. That's why I marked it green. But of course, then the worry would be if it were to break that 24,000 line that we drew in, there's a good probability it's going to pull back even further, probably close to like 19. So that would be another point. If we kind of just draw out, did I not click this? Like this seems to be the trend. So I'm going to draw this out just a little bit, and I'll make this purple for us just so it stands out a little bit. We'll draw in another trend line here, try to see if we can hit the highs. That's fairly parallel. So it looks like right now it's going to go above that purple trend line, which means, at least in the short term, I would say it's overvalued. We'll kind of see how it plays out with this trend line. Overall, I just don't feel like it's a good time to buy. You know, of course, we can look at it either way. Because again, I do feel like there's a high probability that it will hit 31,000. It's just, what's it going to do when it hits that mark? Is it going to act like it did most recently, back in like May and June of 22, where it was around that mark, and then just pull back? That's what I'm leaning towards most likely is going to happen. Is it may hit 31,000, but then pull back. I don't know how low it'll pull back, because again, it looks like there was some support here, and we can even draw this line in as we won't make it a full line, but we could make this like an intermediary line. There did seem to be some support here right around 28,000 where it's at now. It hasn't crossed that intermediary green line, and I'll actually zoom in a little bit just so we can get a better visual. Just because that green, maybe I can make that a little bit thicker for us. That's too close. I'm going to keep it kind of as an intermediary line, so hopefully you can see this line in here. But yeah, so it's right around that mark of 28,000, that intermediary kind of support line. So maybe it's going to get rejected there, but I think if this trend line continues the way I'm seeing it, I do think there's a high probability that it'll hit 31,000. Maybe not this week, but you know, maybe over the next couple weeks. I think there's a good probability that it'll hit the 31,000 mark. I think it'll get rejected and then bounce back to 28. It's just the reason why I'm choosing to I'm just trying to think here, because you know, I guess what I'm debating right now is, I can see there's one scenario where it's going to continue to trend upwards. It's going to hit 31,000. Then it's going to pull back to right around where it is right now at 28,000, and that might be an opportunity to buy. And that's it. That's scenario one. Scenario two, which this is kind of what I'm at the moment debating on, is that it will hit that 31,000 mark, it'll pull back to 28, and then continue to pull back and come back to 24. And again, that would still keep us in this upper trend line. And so those are the two scenarios I'm kind of facing with. I guess if we want to get into this long term anyway, I think 28,000 is probably an okay point. Again, we're a little bit above the trend line, so that's not necessarily a good thing. But again, it's below this fair value line that I drew in for whatever that's worth. I think most likely Most likely what I'm going to do is I'll probably buy a very small fraction just so I can say I have some. Uh, I'm pretty sure I have some Bitcoin, but probably like nothing. It's probably like $50 or maybe not even that, maybe like $20 in Bitcoin. So I do want to create a position in this that's kind of like worthwhile, uh, preferably in the hundreds of dollars at least. Um, so I guess just looking at my analysis here, um, I, there's a good probability that yeah I might just throw $50 or $100 just to buy a fractional share today, just to say I have it. Uh, but I think ideally what I would like to happen is I'd like to just watch this one go up to 31,000, pull back, and then if 28,000 acts as support for a week or two, then yeah, that would be to me a sign that okay, I'll actually add a, a bigger chunk, which again for me that might just be $200, something like that. So here I might just put in like 50, and then if it pulls back and acts as resistance here, then sure, I'll throw in maybe another $100 or $200, see how it plays out. But again, the thinking is I'm more inclined to, and again, maybe it's just me being, I don't know if this is an optimistic view, but for me, it's just, I think if it does pull back to 28,000, I think it's more likely that if it pulls back to that point, it's going to continue to pull back. I don't know if we'll necessarily see 24,000 again, but if we do, I think that would be a good time to then kind of really build out a position. So we'll see how this plays out. Um, but yeah, so I guess that's how I'm gonna play this. So let me just update the chart here while we kind of think about it. So currently it's at 28,500. A buy point for me would be about 24,212. Um, Again, for sell point, uh, I'm just not really in the selling slash shorting position right now. Mainly because I got beat so bad on Nvidia. I just, I don't want to go into that, but yeah, Nvidia just had a big shock to me that I just feel like the next year for them is going to be not very good. But again, investors are looking years down the road, and I guess I was looking too short term because I think they're going to put up potentially a full year of just bad revenue and income. But again, if they're going to look into year two, I think yeah, they're going to do really good in the second year. So I think I was just focusing more on the short term, and that's not how others are playing it, and you kind of have to go with how others are viewing it. So because I had that bad situation with them, I guess for this one, if I had to put in like a sell position, um, yeah, I think we're gonna run into resistance at about 31879, which is this lower fair value point. I think that's gonna be the first resistance point for us. Uh, so this is the recap that I have right now. We are in a slight uptrend, and I'm gonna add some commas in here just so it's easier for us. So currently it's at about 28,500. A good buy point for me would be 24,212, and a sell point would be 31,879. And again, I just want to mention this that I don't know how many, like, I don't know what platforms you can actually buy the fractional shares, but I do know webull offers that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a referral link in the description if you don't have an account with them. What will happen if you don't and you'd want to open an account with them, is if you click the link, what you'll get is this page will open and you'll just get started. And if you do that, you'll be able to get up to 12 fractional shares, as you can see on the screen. And how you get that is just by opening the account. Just in general, you're going to get 2 free fractional shares. I think the way that works is it's really random, and I'm not sure if it mentions. Yeah, so each fractional share is between $3 and $3,000. Again, it's just random. Most likely, it's going to be probably between $3 and $20. I think that's what happened with me when I opened it. I got 2 stocks roughly in that range, so that's most likely going to happen with you, but who knows? You could be one of the lucky winners that gets a share of something for $2,000. It's possible. And then if once you actually make a deposit into this webull account that you open, then you'll get 10 free fractional shares on top of the 2 from when you opened it. And so I believe I have a video of how to set up an account. It's an older video, so it might be a little outdated. I don't think their process has changed in terms of setting up. But again, once you click the link, you'll click this Get Started button, and then it should walk you through the steps on how to actually set up an account if you want to. But yeah, again, I'm just pointing that out because Webull is the only account that I know for certain you can buy Bitcoin on it. I don't know if the other like major type of trading platforms like E-Trade or Fidelity, I don't think they have that offer that you can do Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think you can. But I know for sure Webull you can. So I just wanted to point that out too. So once again, I'll just close out here by showing this. I'm not going to be doing anything. If I do anything though, again, I would add something very small. In my case, that might be like $50, just again, so I can have a little bit of interest, show how much I am interested in them, just to have some money on the field, if you want to call it that. But again, yeah, that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think, how this one's going. We just started this one, so we will continue to track this as we go on. And yeah, so that wraps this up. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd be happy to read that. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.